Hello guys, I have brought a new trending drama for you. We start by showing us our main lead who is attending a class while the other students are either not attending or just sleeping in the class, and the teacher doesn't seem to care at all. But the main reason was, why was Gamin the only one attending the class? Now we are giving his backstory where it's shown that since childhood he was very weak in studies. That's why he had decided that now he will focus completely on studying. He was always either second last or third last in his class ranking, and he never managed to rise above that. His goal was to perform well like the other students and achieve good ranks. Because of this, he had hired many tutors at home. First he tried group study and later private students, but even those tutors could not help him much. Now it was time for him to go to college. His family sent him to college where no one wanted to go. In fact, people would say they rather die than go there, and yet he ended up at that college. He had made up his mind that he would study there no matter what. But the college turned out to be completely different from his expectations. Every student in the college seemed ready to fight all the time. No one seemed like a proper student, but more like troublemakers. Even if Gamin was just looking at them, they would get ready to scratch his eyes out. They looked at him and asked, "Why are you looking at us?" So he quickly shifted his gaze elsewhere and moved on. Now kept looking at everyone's faces, analyzes them and rejected each one, thinking, "No, this one doesn't look like a student." Then his eyes landed on a student named Sihon, who actually looked like someone who studied. Seeing him, Gamin decided, "I should go to him." He walked towards Sihon, who was already looking at him suspiciously, wondering why he was coming in his direction. Gamin sat beside him and asked, "Would you like to study with me?" Before Sihon could even respond, another student suddenly attacked him. This student was ranked 173 while Gamin was ranked 170. As soon as fight started, the entire class got excited and began cheering loudly. Everyone was supporting the student ranked 170 because he was clearly taking more hits. Both Sihon and Gamin were pushed far back. Gamin tried to move forward but could not. Meanwhile, 173 kept attacking Sihon, hitting him again and again until finally 173 won the fight, and now his position had become 170 while the other one had become 170 to 171. All this ranking is about how powerful someone is. As soon as the fight had ended and everyone moved aside, Gamin quickly ran to help him, lifting him up and gathering his belongings to hand them back. Just then the teacher arrived and announced that their new homeroom teacher had arrived. While saying this, he introduced the teacher, whose name was Lihan. After introducing herself, she informed the class, "I will be teaching grade 4 and 10 and I will also be in charge of your class." The moment Gamin saw her, he immediately recognized her. She had once been his tutor at home when he was younger. He clearly remembered her, telling him that he had potential and that he could succeed in his studies. However, while Gamin had recognized her, she had not yet noticed him. As Miss Lihan began taking attendance, she called out the first student name. In response, another student casually remarked that he had gone out to smoke. Hearing this, Lihan was taken aback but continued, confirming that the student was absent, and as it starts progress, a student farts on his name while the other student picks up the coffee and throws it at the board. The teacher was startled as the juice splashed onto her as well. Just then a student sitting at the last bench stood up. His name was also Lihan. He says, "Why is there so much noise?" and then asks, "Who started the fight?" The boy responsible sits completely silent because he knows he is about to get beaten up. Lihan walks straight up to him and slaps him twice. No one dares to stop him, not even teacher Lihan, who is completely in shock. After doing this, as Lihan walks back to his seat, the boy stops him and asks, "Why did you spill my coffee?" Both of them start abusing each other, and when words are no longer enough, he lifts him up and throws him outside. And again, this had become news for all the students, and everyone is watching this fight, and the teacher had already lost her patience. She grabs it and slams it on the register table. All the students start looking at them. Finally, the teacher shouted, "Sit down in your places," but the students only mocked her. Just then, Lihan stepped back inside and said in a firm voice, "Did you all not hear? The teacher said to sit down." As soon as he spoke, everyone quickly hurried back to their seats. Lihan too sat down, but he was still staring at teacher Lihan with a smirk. Their gazes met for a moment, and then Lihan walked outside, where he started throwing trash into a nearby basket. So it seems that all this is a place made by students to throw away their cigarette butts. When she looks around, there are only students there to smoke cigarettes. Meanwhile, Gamin appeared in the area, and upon saying the teacher called out her name, the moment she heard it, she immediately recognized him, and the two sat down to talk. Looking at him, she smiled and said, "You are grown up so much. I did not recognize you at all. You must have been really surprised when I suddenly left without saying anything." Gamin nodded and saying, "Yes, I was surprised." The teacher then explained, "I had to leave because of a situation." Gamin asked, "But tell me, are you planning to stay in this job or you are going to leave like the last teacher?" She replied, "No. Why would I leave? I came came here to work. Gamin then said, my last homeroom teacher quit within a month, so I was just asking. She laughed and responded, it's only my first day. Why would I quit already? But I am glad that you are grown up and still care about me. By the way, how is your studying going? Hearing this, Gamin smiled and said, I am working on it. Meanwhile, it was shown that Gamin was following Sihon everywhere. Whenever Sihon went to the library, he would sleep and Gamin would sit nearby. Not just that, whenever Sihon woke up, Gamin was already handing him something he needed. Annoyed, Sihon looked at him and said, what are you doing here? I told you I don't want to study with you. But even at lunchtime, Gamin sat beside him. Sihon got up to leave, but Gamin still followed him everywhere. Finally, in the library, Sihon got frustrated and said, don't make noise, let me sleep. Gamin was not making any noise, but he still bumbled, I wish someone would explain this to me. Hearing this, Sihon suddenly sat up and said, I will explain it to you, but after that, don't show me your face again. He then began explaining how 0.999 rounds off to 1 with an example. If a cake is divided into 3 equal parts, each part is 0.33. When you add them, it becomes 0.99. That means the cake is packed together as one whole. But Gamin, still thinking, asked, what about the cake left on the knife? Hearing this, Sihon was completely dumbfounded. Meanwhile, teacher Lihan was shown arriving to remove the drums that the student had placed as their secret smoking area. She told the workers, remove them. The students will stop smoking if we take these away. But vice principal laughed and said, I have been smoking for 40 years and have not quit. You think removing these drums will stop the kids? That's not happening. Just do your job and let it be. Meanwhile, Sihon turned to Gamin and said, can I tell you something? Gamin excited and said, yes, tell me. But Sihon smirked and bluntly said, I did not want to say this, but you are stupid, very, very stupid. Hearing this, Gamin smiled slightly faded, but then he looked at him and said, you are just like me. Deep down, you also want to study. Saying this, he starts discussing every part of her body and finally comes to her eyes. But Sihon interrupted and said, I can't study. Do you even know about the rankings? He pulled out his phone and showed a ranking app where every student had a rank assigned. Gamin had no clue about it. Sihon then revealed the one who made this app is none other than the principal's son, Lihan. Gamin looked at Sihon. He said, what do we have to do with this? Our focus is on studying. While saying this, he showed Sihon the ranking result he had found earlier when picking up Sihon things. That's when Gamin discovered that Sihon had always ranked second. Using this as motivation, he told Sihon, you should study. You can't just run away from it like this. But Sihon got irritated and snapped, get lost. I already told you I don't want to study and that's final. Saying this, he stormed off. The scene shifted to Han, who was standing before all the students receiving an award for achieving the highest grades and setting a great example. He happily accepted the award while Gamin, carefully observing Sihon's expression, noticed how he reacted. Sihon, feeling uneasy, stood up and walked out to the washroom. As he washed his face, he had a strange feeling. Was Gamin following him again? Frustrated, Sihon turned around and said, enough is enough. But as soon as he looks back, it was not Gamin, it was Lihan. Saying him, Sihon frowned and said, I was not talking to you. But before Sihon could respond, Sihon started attacking him. The fight escalated and Lihan dragged Sihon to an isolated place away from everyone. There he continued beating him badly. Meanwhile, teacher Lihan was still overseeing the removal of the smoking drums when she suddenly heard a loud scream. She turned to look around, trying to figure out where it was coming from. As she followed the sound, she saw that one student was violently attacking another. Shocked, she looked around for help, but the other students, instead of helping, quickly ran away. She decided, I will open the gate myself. But before she could move, Gamin suddenly appeared and stopped her. Don't go, he said. I will handle this. That boy is going to be my future study group member. The next moment, Gamin kicked the door open and entered instantly. He set off a smoke, filling the entire place with white smoke. The attackers, unable to see Gamin wearing a mask, helped Sihon up and carried him outside. Teacher Lihan stood there, stunned, watching everything. As they finally got out, Gamin removed his mask. Sihon, still weak but conscious, looked at him and frowned. Why did you come to save me? Sihon asked. I could have handled it myself. Now you are only make things worse for me. Hearing this, Gamin asked, what do you mean? Sihon scoffed and said, I don't know what study means to you, but for me, it's matter of life and death. My life is more important than studying, which is why I will never do it. And I am telling you, for the last time, stay away from me. Saying this, Sihon walked away only to run into Lihan. Lihan looked him in the eyes and asked, tell me, who was the guy who saved you? Sihon immediately denied knowing anything. I don't know, I did not see his face. Hearing this, Lihan got furious and started beating him badly. Even though he was in pain, Sihon still did not reveal the truth. Lihan glared at him and said, this is the last time I am asking you. Just as he raised his hand to hit him again, Gamin suddenly appeared. Gamin blocked the attack effortlessly. At that moment, Lihan realized something. Gamin was highly skilled in martial arts. His movements were sharp, precise and way beyond an ordinary student's ability. Even Gamin, martial art instructor, had told him before, "You should quit studying and pursue martial arts. You have a natural talent for it. You will go far." But Gamin's passion was not fighting, it was studying. He had always asked himself, why can't I succeed in this one thing? After learning martial arts, Gamin still chose to focus on studying. This was why he was able to fight so well against Lihan. Lihan, unable to keep up, eventually fainted on the spot. As soon as Lihan collapsed, Gamin rushed over to Sihon and asked, "Are you okay?" Sihon looked at him and said, "You are scared of them too, are not you? That's why you hide your face, so they would not find out who you are. You think they will target you otherwise?" After saying this, Sihon walked away. Once he was gone, Gamin removed his mask too. Sihon was later seen arriving home, where his father placed food in front of him. Sihon quietly pushed the papers on the table aside, his father watching him and said, "You should learn properly." Sihon did not respond, which made his dad glare at him and say, "Why are not you answering me?" Finally, Sihon said, "Okay, fine." But a moment later, he added, "Actually, I am not studying anymore. I have already dropped out of my studies. That's why I ended up in that college. I don't want to learn anything." Hearing this, his father angrily said, "You dare speak like this in front of me?" Sihon, after saying, left the house, sat outside in silence and hid his emotions. Meanwhile, Gamin was still looking at the math problem Sihon had explained to him earlier. Gamin remembered something from his childhood, a conversation between a mother and a teacher. "My son does group study. His group has many bright students." That's when he realizes he needed a group study too. At school, he went around asking everyone, "Can I join your study group?" One student said, "Sorry, there's no space in our group." Another told him, "You are low-ranking student. We don't allow people like you." Someone else said, "My parents made this group and told me not to add anyone." After constant rejection, Gamin finally broke down in tears. Just then, his mother approached him. She had come to tell him that Miss Lihan would not be coming anymore. But when she saw him crying and she asked what happened, Gamin could not explain. His mother comforted, saying, "It's okay, you will get better at studying." But Gamin, still crying, said, "That's not the problem, Mom." As he recalled all these painful memories, Gamin started crying again. The next morning, Miss Lihan was shown lying in bed. She groaned and said, "I don't want to go school." Then she remembered, "Wait, I'm the teacher, I have to go." She quickly got ready and went to school. There she saw the students smoking again and the drums had been brought back out. This time she was furious. Just as she was about to step in, the discipline teacher arrived and scolded the students. Saying this, Miss Lihan felt relieved. She excitedly ran toward him and greeted, "Good morning." But the discipline teacher coldly said, "Hello, my foot. Quickly remove these drums. The school inspector is coming and the vice principal has ordered this." At that moment, all her hopes of disciplining the students were shattered. Still, she began lifting the drums, though they were too heavy for her. Just then, a student stepped in to help her. After receiving his help, she asked, "What's your name?" He replied, "Pakyon." He then said, "It's okay, that the inspector is coming. He should see all this." Lihan sighed and said, "I wish that were possible, but this is not our school. We can't do anything." She then told him, "You should go to class. I will handle the rest." Meanwhile, Gamin returned to his seat and found a notebook already there. Curious, he opened it and saw the words "Math Notes" written on it. Below that, a name was written, Sihon. Saying this, Gamin turned to look at Sihon. He walked up to him and handed back the notebook, saying, "Here are your notes." Sihon looked at him and said, "I was going to throw it away, so I just give it to you." Gamin smiled and said, "Thanks anyway." But just then, someone grabbed Gamin and threw a chair at him. Gamin had come to return Sihon notebook and was just about to thank him when suddenly, from the side, someone lifted a chair and smashed it into him, sending him crashing to the ground. The impact made the entire crowd of students gathered around, watching in shock. The one who attacked him was none other than Lihan. He casually bent down, picked up the file notebook and examined it. The name on the cover read Sihon, which made Sihon visibly nervous. However, Lihan had no interest in him. His focus was solely on Gamin. Gamin, recovering from the attack, stood back up and firmly demanded his notebook back. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the school inspector, who was taking a tour of the campus alongside the vice principal. They were observing everything closely, ensuring the school's discipline and order. As they stepped outside, their eyes fell on a pile of drums, and right next to them was Miss Lihan, who was trying to move them one by one. She had already cleared most of them, leaving just one last drum behind. The inspector passed, watching her carefully. Sensing the situation, the vice principal hurriedly signaled the discipline officer to intervene. Frustrated, the officer rushed over to Miss Lihan, quickly offering his help to move the drum away. However, just as they were about to continue, the inspector suddenly ordered them to stop. The discipline officer quickly carried the drum away, knowing that if he stayed any longer, their secret might get exposed. Meanwhile, While Miss Lihan remained standing in place, looking at the inspector, she hesitated before asking, "Did you just tell me to stop?" The inspector, however, kept looking at her curiously and said, "I feel like I have seen you before. Have we met by any chance?" Miss Lihan shook her head and replied, "No, I don't think so. I don't remember anything like that." At that moment, the vice principal quickly jumped in, explaining she is a new teacher. She recently joined our school. Just as this conversation was taking place, a loud, crushing sound echoes through the courtyard. A glass object had shattered and fallen from above, crashing onto the ground. Everyone turned their head towards the noise. Their attention immediately shifted to the incident. Miss Lihan's expression changed as she quickly ran towards the classroom, sensing something was wrong. The inspector did not stay back either. Instead of leaving, he followed her, heading in the same direction. Meanwhile, the vice principal felt his heart pumping in fear. He knew that if the inspector kept investigating, their hidden secrets would be exposed. At that moment, the scene shifted to what had happened just before the glass broke. Inside the classroom, Lihan still refused to return Gamin's notebook. Instead, he stood in front of the entire class and ordered every student except for Gamin to leave the room. As soon as Lihan gave the order, one by one, the students began leaving the classroom. However, Sihon remained standing, hesitating. Lihan turned to him and said, "Did not you hear what I said?" Even Gamin looked at Sihon and said, "Just go." Hearing this, Sihon reluctantly stepped out of the room. The moment he left, the fight began. Gamin refused to let Lihan land a single hit on him. But unlike a regular fight, Gamin was not fighting to hurt him. He was fighting because Lihan had set fire to the notebook. His only goal was put out the flames and save it. However, every time he moved toward the burning notebook, Lihan blocked his way, attacking him. In return, Gamin struck back, knocking Lihan down multiple times. At last, Gamin managed to reach the notebook quickly, patting out the flames, but it was too late. The notebook was completely burnt. Looking at the destroyed book, Gamin turned to Lihan and said, "You need to apologize to Sihon." The moment he said this, everyone froze confused. The students outside who had been listening began whispering among themselves, "Who is Sihon?" They wondered. Inside, Sihon himself stood in silence, watching everyone unfold. Now everyone outside had realized who Sihon really was. Meanwhile, Lihan, who still was not willing to give up, suddenly noticed that Gamin's bag was on fire. Without thinking, he grabbed it and hurled it straight at Gamin. At that moment, Gamin snapped. Fueled by anger, he caught the burning bag, spun it around in a full motion like an action scene, and hurled it back at Lihan with incredible force. The impact was so strong that Lihan collapsed on the spot completely unconscious, but Gamin did not stop there. He rushed to him, shook him, and shouted, "You can't pass out yet. You have to apologize to Sihon first." At the same time, the scene shifted to Sihon, where fragments of his past were slowly revealed. Sihon had always wanted to study liberal arts, but his father had strictly forbidden it. His father did not just stop him from pursuing his passion, he did not even want him to study at all. Because of this, Sihon ended up at this college, where he did nothing but sleep through the days. Even here, he had lost all motivation, knowing that his father would never let him study what he truly loved. Despite his indifferent attitude, he had started noticing something. Gamin was always looking out for him. Even when he slept in the library, Gamin made sure no one disturbed him. One day, while Sihon was asleep at his usual spot in the library in charge walked in and was about to wake him up and scold him. Before he could say anything, Gamin quickly stepped in and whispered, "He is sleeping. Please don't wake him up." The librarian looked surprised and said, "This is the first time I have seen students actually care about someone in the library. Okay, I would not disturb him." With that, librarian walked away, leaving Sihon undisturbed. As soon as librarian left, Sihon shifted slightly and went back to sleep. As Sihon woke up, he noticed something placed in front of him. This small act of kindness made Sihon think about Gamin, and as he reflected on everything, he picked up one of the notebooks he had previously thrown away, the very same one he had once given to Gamin. Meanwhile, as the fight between Gamin and Lihan came to an end, Sihon walked up to Gamin before he could say anything. Gamin immediately started apologizing. "I am sorry, because of me all your hard work was wasted." But Sihon just shook his head. "It's fine," he said before casually throwing the notebook onto the ground. He then looked at Gamin and said, "This was your hard work, all of it written in your notebook." However, his expression suddenly turned serious. "I will do it," he said. Gamin blinked, confused. "Do what?" Sihon smirked and said, "I am joining your study group." Hearing this, Gamin's face lit up with pure joy. At the same time, Miss Lihan arrived at the classroom. Rushing inside, she immediately noticed the fire still burning, so he quickly put it out before turning to the students. "Are you all out of your minds? What are you doing here?" she scolded. Just then, the vice principal and the inspector entered the room. Looking at the chaotic scene, they asked for Gamin's name. Soon after, Gamin was taken to the office and made to sit down. He remained quiet, but Sihon entered the room and approached him, saying him. Gamin immediately said, "Don't come near Maybe if you are staying with me, you might get in trouble too. Just stay away. But Sihon ignored him and said, study group leader. Gamin, confused, asked, what do you mean by that? Sihon smiled for the first time, clearly amused. You are taking this way too lightly. He then pulled out a pair of glasses. I found these while cleaning up the classroom. Figured they might be yours. Without hesitation, Gamin grabbed his glasses and put them on, looking relieved. As Sihon turned to leave, he casually said, thanks, but Gamin smirked and replied, no need to talk me. I let you sleep in the library, gave you, helped you out. Hearing this, Sihon stopped and said, that's not why I am thanking you. Gamin laughed at his response. Just then the vice principal and the inspector re-entered the room. You are here as punishment and you are laughing, the inspector remarked. Without a word, Sihon quickly left the room. As he walked down the hallway, he noticed something strange. Every student he passed immediately stepped aside, giving him space. Confused, he turned around only to see Lihan standing behind him. The moment their eyes met, Sihon instinctively stepped aside as well. Lihan was not alone. He had two guys with him and they were dragging Lihan along without hesitation. They started mercilessly beating him, making it clear that Lihan was about to face the consequences for his actions. From a distance, Gyeong and the other students stood watching everything unfold. Meanwhile, in the vice principal office, a decision was being made. Gamin was to be expelled for violence. The moment Gamin heard this, his eyes widened in shock. What do you mean I am getting expelled? He asked. The vice principal looked at him coldly and said, yes, when a student turns out like this, is not it better to just get rid of him? However, Miss Lihan could not tolerate this at all. Just as the vice principal was about to finalize the decision and leave, she stood up and spoke boldly. Actually, this is the school's fault. The moment she said this, both the inspector and the vice principal stopped in their tracks. The vice principal turned around, glaring at her. Excuse me, did I just hear you correctly? Are you saying I am in the wrong? Without hesitation, Miss Lihan stood her ground and said, yes, you only care about making sure the inspector doesn't see anything wrong with the school. But do you care about the 600 students here? Whether they live or die doesn't seem to matter to you at all. The vice principal, however, remained firm in his decision. When a student is a troublemaker, he should be removed so others don't follow in his footsteps. Violence is not the answer. If we don't stop it now, students will just keep restoring to more fights. Miss Lihan, refusing to back down, replied, since the day I arrived at this school, I have been seeing things that prove otherwise. After witnesses everything that had happened, Miss Lihan firmly stated violence can only be stopped with violence. Nothing else will work here. She then sighed and admitted, yes, I know that responding to violence with more violence is wrong, but given the conditions of the school, it's the only way to survive. The inspector, who had been silently observing, finally spoke up. You really have not changed at all, Miss Lihan. The vice principal turned at him in shock, realizing that the inspector knew her. Where you know her? He asked. The inspector smirked. Of course, I remember now. She is the student who achieved the highest score in the teacher certification exam last year. Hearing this, everyone, including Gamin, stunned. She was the top scorer. The inspector continued, however, due to some reason, she was not able to register and her certification was cancelled. He then looked directly at Miss Sihon and asked, am I right? That was you, was not it? Gamin suddenly remembered that Miss Lihan had always wanted to become this kind of teacher to truly make a difference. The inspector then challenged her, so tell me, how do you plan to change this school? Do you have any ideas? Before she could respond, the vice principal scoffed. Even if she was a top scorer, what can she possibly do? But Miss Lihan confidently said, I want to create a study group, and it was not even my idea, it was Gamin's. The vice principal rolled his eyes. A study group? What kind of useless idea is that? But before he could dismiss it further, the inspector immediately cut in. No, that's actually a great idea. You should go ahead with it. And just like that, the scene shifted to the next morning. The clock struck 5 a.m., signaling the start of something new. Gamin woke up early and immediately headed out for his morning exercise. As he was jogging, a security guard informed him that it was already 6:34 a.m. Hearing this, he panicked and sprinted back home. The moment he reached, he jumped onto his bed, pretending to be asleep. A few moments later, his mom walked in, shaking him awake. It's time for college, get up. Hearing this, he quickly sat up, pretending as if he had just woken up. Meanwhile, at school, Sihon was shown standing near the entrance, waiting for Gamin. As soon as he spotted Gamin arriving, he casually stepped out from the side, walking ahead as if he was not wanting at all. Gamin, noticing him, immediately ran up to him and excitedly said, this is the first time we are coming to school together. Then looking closely at Sihon's face, he asked, did you see a doctor? Are you okay? Sihon, clearly annoyed, replied, stop overreacting, I am fine. However, as soon as Gamin loudly mentioned the study group, Sihon quickly shushed him. Why would not I be worried? You are the part of my study group now, Gamin said with a grinned. Sihon glanced around and whispered, "Keep your voice down, someone might hear us." Then he turned to Gamin and asked, "Did you seriously get approved?" Gamin, still smiling, nodded, "Yeah, it's official. I got approved." Meanwhile, Miss Lihan was seen in the vice principal office. The vice principal leaned forward and smirked, "You think you are smart, did not you? If you fail to fulfill your contract, you will terminate it the moment it expires." Instead of being intimidated, Miss Lihan simply smiled and said, "Thank you." Then without another word, she walked out. At that moment, she coincidentally ran into Gamin and Sihon. Miss Lihan informed Gamin and Sihon that for their study group to be officially recognized, they needed 5 members, not just 2. Hearing this, both of them were shocked. "We need to find 3 more people." To them, it seemed almost impossible. Miss Lihan tried to recall a motivational quote but could not quite remember it. Seeing her struggle, Gamin began listing multiple quotes, hoping one of them was the right one, but none of them matched. Then suddenly, Miss Lihan remembered. She confidently said, "The word impossible doesn't exist in my dictionary." Gamin and Sihon exchanged glances, realizing that Miss Lihan had much higher expectations from them than they had from themselves. Despite their hesitation, she remained firm. "We can't give up. We have to prove that a study group of 5 is possible." Determined, they started putting up posters all over the school, writing study group on them and placing them on walls and boards. As students passed by and noticed the flyers, some gathered around to take a look. However, instead of showing interest, they laughed and mocked it. "Who even studies? We rather skip classes," they scoffed, saying their reaction. Gamin felt discouraged for a moment, but deep down, he believed that at least one person out there was willing to join. So he went to the library and waited. After a while, his phone rings. Excited, he quickly picked it up. On the other hand, a voice spoke. It was someone asking about the study group. The call that Gamin had been so excited about turned out to be a disappointment. Instead of someone interested in joining the study group, the caller asked for advice on how to propose to a girl. Frustrated, Gamin immediately hung up the call. Still not a single new member had joined their group. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the library where a boy walked in. Before showing his arrival, the story rewound a few minutes earlier, revealing what had happened before he entered. Outside the library, several students were trying to stop him. "You should not go in there. This is not about study group recruitment. You are just picking a fight." They tried to reason with him, warning Gamin is not someone you can take lightly. "You would not be able to beat him." But the boy, unfazed, scoffed, "We will see about that." Ignoring their warning, he stormed into the library. Inside, Gamin saw him and instantly brightened up, thinking he was there to join the study group. Excitedly, he rushed over and said, "Welcome. Let me get you a form." Completely oblivious to the boy's true intention, Gamin happily searched for the application form. Meanwhile, the boy was already preparing to attack him. Each time he tries to land a punch, Gamin unknowingly dodged, either moving sideways, bending down, or shifting position as he searched for the form. Completely unaware that someone was trying to fight him, Gamin remained focused on finding the form, while the other boy, frustrated, kept swinging and missing. Sihon, sitting nearby watching the entire scene unfold in disbelief. The boy, unstable to land a single hit, gave up and sat down next to Sihon. Sihon, already anxious, tensed up even more. Meanwhile, Gamin finally noticed the form, only to realize it had been crushed under the boy's foot. Looking up, he calmly said, "Alright then." Gamin, still unaware of the chaos unfolding around him, casually said, "I will get you another form from the locker." He walked towards the locker, but just as the boy was about to attack him again, the top locker door suddenly swung open and hit the boy's hand. Because of this unexpected accident, Gamin unknowingly avoided getting hit. Then as he bent down to open the bottom locker, the boy, still determined to strike, ended up hitting his head against it. The impact was so strong that he immediately collapsed, completely unconscious. The students watching from outside could not believe what had just happened. To them, it looked as if Gamin had deliberately planned the whole thing. No one realizes that everything had happened purely by chance. As Gamin closed the locker and turned around, he noticed the boy laying on the ground, blood trickling from his nose. Panic instantly set in. He rushed over, trying to wake him up, completely unaware that the onlookers outside were now convinced that he was brutally attacking him. Word quickly spread across the school, with students exaggerating the incident, making it sound like Gamin had mercilessly beaten the boy. To everyone watching, Gamin had now become a terrifying figure, someone not to be messed with. Meanwhile, Gamin sat beside the unconscious student, genuinely worried. He was going to be our first new member, and now he injured, he muttered in disappointment. Hearing this, Sihon, who had been quietly watching, finally lost his patience. "Are you serious? He was not here for the study group. He came to fight you." But Gamin, ignoring him, suddenly stood up with determination. "We can't just sit around waiting. We need to go find students who actually want to study with us." class. Without waiting for Sihon reply, he marched straight to the school cafe. The moment he stepped inside, all the students turned to look at him. A tense silence filled the room. The second they recognized him, panic spread across their faces. Some quickly hid behind their trays, others lowered their head to avoid eye contact. Gamin was not even doing anything, he was simply observing. Among the students in the cafe, he spotted one of his classmates. Without hesitation, he walked over and stood right in front of him. The student, completely frozen, struggled to breathe. He was certain that Gamin was about to force him into the study group. Avoiding eye contact, he stayed completely still. However, Gamin simply looked at him for a moment and then, with a disappointed sigh, he turned around and walked away. Realizing there was no one in this cafe interesting, he decided to check the other one. But as soon as he stepped into the next cafe, the students inside instantly panicked. One student let out a frightened gasp, which triggered a chain reaction. Within seconds, every single person started leaving. One by one, the cafe emptied out until there was not a single soul left inside. Gamin stood there completely baffled. Why is everyone leaving? He mumbled, looking around, feeling confused. Gamin is Sean, walking with Sihon. As they walk, Sihon's eyes suddenly land on a boy. He immediately recognizes him and say, "I know that guy." Gamin, curious, asks, "Who?" Sihon, still looking at him, says, "That's Gyeong. We used to study in same school." Then suddenly he remembers something and says, "Wait, did not he go to the US to study? Did he came back from there?" As Sihon is still thinking about it, Gamin has already made up his mind. "I am going to bring him into the study group." Without waiting, he starts running towards Gyeong. Sihon quickly tries to stop him, grabbing his arm. "Don't go to him." But Gamin pulls away. Sihon insists, "You don't know anything about this guy." But Gamin doesn't stop and reaches Gyeong. Gamin excitedly asks, "You came back from the US, right? Your English must be really good. Will you join our study group?" Gyeong, slightly confused, asks, "Study group? What study group?" Gamin replies, "There are two of us right now. Will you join too?" Gyeong smirks slightly and say, "Are not you worried that people will make you their next target?" Gamin doesn't say anything. Gyeong then turns away and says, "I am not joining your study group." He walks away, leaving Gamin standing there. Meanwhile, Miss Lihan is shown taking a class. As soon as the class ended, she says class is over. All the students stand up and leave. But as they leave, Miss Lihan notices something strange. She looks around and realizes something. Lihan is not here. Noticing this, she tries calling his house, but no one picks up the call. So she takes out Lihan information and decided to go to his house to check on him. Next day, Gamin is shown sitting in the library with Sihon again, waiting for anyone to join their study group. Every time a message pops up on his phone, he excitedly checks it, but it always turns out to be about something else. Sihon watches this and finally says, "You could just take online lectures instead, right?" Hearing this, Gamin starts listing out every single online lecture he has already attended. Then when Sihon mentions a specific academy, Gamin starts naming 10-20 different academies he has already studied. Sihon finally gives up. This guy has already studied from everywhere, yet still doesn't get it. He thinks to himself. Meanwhile, Gamin looks down feeling sad. No one came to join our study group. He mumbles. At that moment, Miss Lihan arrives saying her. Gamin immediately stands up. Miss Lihan looks at them and asks, "Why do you both look so down?" "Because no one came for the study group." She then smiles and says, "It's okay. Sometimes you just need to go out and have a change of scene. Come on, let's go out for a while." Saying this, she takes them to the market. Once they arrived, she leads them to bookstore. Inside the bookstore, she picks up a book and asks Gamin, "What about this one? Do you want to buy it? It's good one." Gamin glances at it and says, "I already have this one at home." She picks up another book and asks, "What about this one?" He replies the same way, "I already have this one at home too." One by one, she keeps picking books, and every time Gamin already owns them all. So Gamin decides to browse the store on his own. As he walks around, he gets fascinated by the pens. Instead of picking just one, he ended up grabbing 20 to 30 pens, all from different brands. While exploring, his eyes suddenly land on a book. He picks it up and stares at it in surprise. For a moment, he seems completely shocked. But just as Sihon's voice calls out to him, Gamin quickly hides the book behind his back, making sure Sihon doesn't see it. After walking around for so long, they all sit together to eat. Once they finish, they go to get ice cream. But the problem, there are way too many flavors. Every time they look at a new one, they feel like getting that one too. This one looks good, but wait, this one too. After much debate, they finally pick a flavor that's everyone's favorite. As they eat, they start chatting. Someone asks Gamin, "Why did you buy so many pens? Do they all have different writing styles?" Gamin nods and start explaining. Every pen has its own feel when writing. Then he turns to Sihon and asks, "Which pen do you use?" Sihon takes out his pen and show it to him. Gamin immediately recognizes it and starts explaining everything about its features. Then he sighs and says, "I I should have bought that one too. Meanwhile, Miss Lihan is sitting quietly listening to their conversation. After a while, they suddenly turn to her and ask, if you were a top school teacher, why did you join another school? You could have taught at a much better place, right? Miss Lihan took a deep breath and said, I missed my chance during registration for a certain reason. That's why I ended up teaching at this school. She then shifted the conversation towards their study group. You guys should have give up. Keep trying and eventually someone will join your study group. After that, everyone started heading home. As Miss Lihan walked back, her eyes fell on her bag. Wait, what is this book? She muted, frowning. I did not buy this one. At the same time, Gamin also noticed something missing. Where's my book? He had brought it from the bookstore, but now it was gone. Thinking for a second, he realized it must have ended up in Miss Lihan's bag by mistake. Sihon saw him worrying and said, she will return it at school tomorrow. It's not a big deal. Let's just go home. Meanwhile, Miss Lihan was walking home while calling Gamin. She looked at the book in her bag and dialed his number, but Gamin ignored her call. At that moment, Miss Lihan reached her apartment. As she pulled out her keys to unlock the door, she suddenly noticed something. Her lock was already broken. Her heart skipped a beat. She immediately stepped back, feeling uneasy. Someone's inside, she thought. Meanwhile, Gamin has just stepped out of a shower. He picked up his phone and noticed Miss Lihan's missed calls. Back at Miss Lihan's house, she cautiously stepped inside. Her eyes scanned the room and then she saw Lihan. He was standing there inside her house, but he was not alone. He had brought several other guys with him. Miss Lihan's face froze. In shock, she glared at him and asked, what are you doing in my house? Lihan smirked and replied, you told me I could came to you anytime if I needed to talk, so I came to your house to talk. Miss Lihan's expression turned cold. I never said you could came to my house. You can talk to me at school just like everyone else. Now leave quietly. I don't want to report you to the police. Lihan chuckled, shaking his head. You are only been in our school for a few days, yet you are already turned everyone against you. So stop pretending and just do your job. He paused for a moment before continuing. I don't want to say much, but Bihan sent me here. He told me to deal with you. Miss Lihan frowned, confused. Who is Bihan? Lihan looked at her in disbelief. You don't know who Bihan is? He scoffed as if the idea was ridiculous. Miss Lihan did not waste any time. She immediately reached for her phone to call the police, but before she could dial, Lihan lunged. Exact moment Gamin was also trying to call Miss Lihan, but since her phone had been taken away, she could not answer. Then without warning, Lihan suddenly struck Miss Lihan, making her stumble. She barely had time to react before he raised his hand again, ready to hit her once more, but just then, all the lights in the house suddenly went out. The entire room was plunged into darkness. Lihan froze, his eyes darting around. What just happened? He muttered, trying to adjust to the pitch-black surroundings. At that moment, someone entered the house. A mysterious young man appeared, moving swiftly through the darkness before Lihan and his man could react. He struck them down one by one with quick, precise movements. Miss Lihan, still disoriented, could barely understand what was happening. The next thing she knew, the mysterious figure grabbed her hand and pulled her out of the house. Lihan and others quickly scrambled to their feet and ran after them, but the rescuer was fast, expertly waving through the halls while guarding Miss Lihan. Finally, he reached the elevator and pressed the button. No one had seen his face. Lihan realizes he had missed the elevator, ran towards the stairs, leading his group of guys with him. They rushed down, determined to catch up. Inside the elevator, the masked man finally revealed his face. The moment Miss Lihan saw him, her eyes widened in shock. You are Gyeong, she blurted out. You are the one who helped me lift the drums? Gyeong didn't respond. The elevator doors opened and they quickly stepped into the parking garage. But as soon as they reached the open space, more guys started showing up. These were the same people they had been hiding from, and now even the ones who had taken the stairs had arrived. Seeing them, Gyeong quickly grabbed Miss Lihan and led her toward a car, using it as cover. Miss Lihan, still shaken, pulled out her phone. She snatched Gyeong's phone and quickly tries to make a call, but before she could press the number, one of the guys grabbed her arm and yanked the phone away. With a smirk, he threw it aside, letting it crash onto the ground. Gyeong, seeing this, immediately launched in a fight. He fought them off and tries to pull Miss Lihan away again, but it was too late. They were completely surrounded. There was no way out. Miss Lihan, realizing this, stepped forward and pleaded, Enough, stop this, listen to me. Before she could finish, one of the guys suddenly struck her. She collapsed onto the ground, unconscious. Gyeong's eyes widened in shock, his fists clenching. He turned back to fight, but there were too many of them. He fought as hard as he could, but eventually they overpowered him, blow after blow. Gyeong finally collapsed to the ground, blood trickling down to his face. Just then, Miss Lihan started regaining consciousness. As she opened her eyes, she saw what was happening. Stop! She cried weakly, trying to push herself up, but at the same time, Lihan started walking toward her. Meanwhile, Gamin is shown at home, feeling uneasy. He keeps checking his phone, worried because Miss Lihan is not answering his calls. She never ignores my calls. This has never happened before. At the same time, Lihan is about to hit Miss Lihan again, but just then, Gamin arrives at the scene. He rushes forward and asks, Miss Lihan, are you okay? Lihan looked at Gamin and smirks, you think I'm scared of you? Before he can say another word, Gamin lands a single powerful punch, sending Lihan flying. Lihan crashes to the ground and loses consciousness on the spot. His body was already weak from the injuries he had received earlier from Gyeong, and now with Gamin hit, he was completely knocked out. Saying this, the other guys charge at Gamin, attacking him from all sides, but Gamin fights them all off effortlessly, taking them down one by one. Meanwhile, at home, Gamin's mother Shin entered his room. She had came to wake him up, but when she looked inside, he was not there. Trying, she looked around the room. Where could he have gone at this hour? Then her eyes landed on something. Realization struck her immediately. He is training. Back at the parking garage, Gamin was in full combat mode. The remaining guys hesitated, fearful of approaching him, but they still charged forward. One by one, they got knocked out, back falling on the ground. After taking down the last guy, Gamin immediately ran over to Miss Lihan. He knelt beside her and asked, Miss Lihan, are you okay? Just then, Lihan regained consciousness, but the Lihan grabbed a bottle nearby and was about to attack Gamin. With the bottle, Gyeong rushed forward and stopped him just in time, but his anger did not stop her. He snapped, gripping Gamin tightly, pushing him against the wall. His breathing was heavy and his eyes burned with rage. He kept hitting Gamin as if he was ready to kill him on the spot. Saying this, Miss Lihan gasped in shock. Gamin, trying to defeat himself, said, I don't know why you are this angry, but you are going to fall. But Gyeong was not listening. He gritted his teeth and shouted, you are the one who broke Miss Lihan's door. Were not you? Then I will break you, just like that door. His grip tightened, his punches landing with more force. Gamin struggled but still managed to say, I get it, but stop. You need to calm down. Gyeong's rage only grew stronger. He shoved Gamin back and yelled, how can I calm down? My mother is dead. His voice echoed in the empty parking lot. His breathing was raised, his hands trembling. Don't interfere. Just leave me alone. Gamin did not back away. He stood his ground, refusing to leave Gyeong alone in his anger. Meanwhile, Miss Lihan was watching everything, taking in every word. Just then, Lihan broke free from the others and ran away. The rest of the guys followed behind him, disappearing into the shadows. As soon as they were gone, Gyeong turned his frustration onto himself. He clenched his fist, shaking with anger. Gamin wanted to help him, but Gyeong refused. Instead, he turned to Miss Lihan and said, whatever punishment you want to give to those scumbags, go ahead, but never trust punishment alone. It never brings real justice. Miss Lihan froze at his words. Gyeong looked straight into her eyes and added, I am telling you this because you remind me of my mother. As Gyeong turned to leave, he looked at Gamin one last time and said, open your eyes. You should not be so obsessed with this study group idea. With that, he walked away. Miss Lihan, now feeling a bit better, quickly went back home to get the book that had accidentally added up in her bag. She returned and handed it back to Gamin. Gamin, however, was still worried about her. He looked at her carefully and asked, are you sure you are okay? Miss Lihan forced a small smile and replied, yes, I am completely fine. Then the scene shifted to Gamin, holding the book he had picked up earlier. The title of the book was You Become What You Think About It. Even though Miss Lihan had assured Gamin that she was fine, things was different once she got home. She stood in the middle of her room, visibly shaken. Her apartment was a mess. Her phone was missing, and when she finally found it, the screen was shattered. She took a deep breath and reached for the phone helpline. Just as she was about to dial, there was a sudden knock on the door. Her body stiffened slowly. She walked to the door and hesitated before opening it. Standing outside was the same student who had attacked her earlier, but this time his face was filled with regret. Tears welled up in his eyes as he lowered his head. Please forgive me, Miss Lihan. I only did it because of Pihan. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear I did not mean it. He looked up at her with desperation. Can you forgive me? Miss Lihan took a deep breath and finally said, just leave, I forgive you. The student nodded quickly, about to walk away, but just before he left, Miss Lihan stopped him. Wait, I want to ask you something. At the moment the scene cut off, the next thing shown was Gamin and Sihon sitting in the library again. A few days had passed, but still no one had joined their study group. Both Gamin and Sihon were getting frustrated over the fact that no one had joined their study group yet. As they sat in silence, Gamin suddenly shouted, startling Sihon, I will make this happen, no matter what, he declared with determination. Without wasting another second, he walked toward a classroom, but just as he was about to enter, he hesitated. His confidence wavered and he started reconsidering his decision. Noticing this, Sihon quickly woke up. Hurry up and go inside before I change my mind too. Before Gamin could react, Sihon gave him a hard shove, pushing him into the class and shutting the door behind him. Gamin stomped inside, trying to catch his balance, but as soon as he looked up, his entire body froze. It was a girl's classroom. Every single girl turned to look at him, their eyes filled with confusion. What is this guy doing here? They are wondered. Miss Lihan is shown sitting in her office, having called a student in to ask about Hanyu, but instead of answering, the student looks at her with a serious expression and says, "Why are you? Stay away from him. You don't know anything about him." Miss Lihan frowns slightly, but the student continues, "Knowing too much about Hanyu is the same as inviting death. Let me say it again, you will die if you keep asking about him." A slight sense of unease creeps into her mind, but despite that, she sits back and waits for Hanyu to arrive. When he finally does, the camera first focuses on his feet. Stepping into the office, his face is not shown until he reaches her desk and takes a seat. Smiling slightly, he tilts his head and asks, "You called me here, but why?" Meanwhile, on the other side, Gamin is shown entering the girls' classroom. The moment all the girls turned and stare at him, he panics without saying a word. He immediately makes a U-turn and rushed out. Once outside, he takes a deep breath and turns to Sihon, looking frustrated. "What was the girl name again?" he asked. Sihon sighs and replies, "Her name is Lihan." Gamin, still confused. "Lihan, what does she even look like?" Sihon rolls his eyes and says, "If you go inside and ask, obviously someone will point her out to you." But Gamin shakes his head, unwilling to go back in. Sihon, however, is not letting him off so easily and keeps pushing him towards the classroom door. Just then, two girls enter the classroom from the other door, calling out Gyeong. The moment Gamin and Sihon hear the name, they immediately turn around. Both of them peek through the window, curious about what's happening inside the classroom. Inside, it turns out the two girls did not come to talk to Gyeong. They came to fight her. Watching this, Sihon suddenly speaks up. "Lee Ji-yoon is not just anyone. She is Lihon's sister." He looked at Gamin seriously and continues, "I don't think we should bring up the study group with her. Lihon already got beaten up by you, so obviously Gyeong will never join us either." Meanwhile, inside the classroom, one of the girls confronts Gyeong. "I told you my lunch menu should have been on my desk by the next period." She snaps, "Why was not it there? You completely ruined my mood." She then glanced down at Gyeong's desk and noticed a piece of paper. "Wait, is this my lunch menu?" she asks. "You should have just put it on my desk." But before Gyeong can say anything, her friend Hwang, who is sitting at the nearby desk, interrupts. "No, that's not the lunch menu," Hwang says. The girl picks up the paper and looks at it carefully. Her expression changes as she realizes this is a midterm preparation plan. She stares at Gyeong in disbelief before laughing. "Are you seriously working this hard for school? Don't you know that studying here is pointless?" Her voice grows louder and she starts yelling at Gyeong, but Gyeong remains completely unbothered, ignoring her. Saying this, the girl's anger explodes and she suddenly raises her hand to hit Hwang. Gyeong had no intention of tolerating this any further. As a girl attempted to hit her, Gyeong swiftly grabbed her wrist and said, "I told you, if you have a problem, deal with me directly. There's no need to take it any further." But despite her warning, the girl Mihi struck Gyeong anyway, causing her to stumble. As Gyeong's midterm preparation plan fell to the ground, Mihi smirked and, in an act of pure mockery, began blowing bubblegum and spitting bubbles onto Gyeong's midterm preparation plan. At that moment, Gamin arrived, stepping in just as bubble was about to land on the paper. With a quick click of his finger, he popped the bubble mid-air, catching everyone's attention. Sihon, standing outside the classroom, was left in shock, wondering where Gamin had suddenly disappeared to. Meanwhile, Gamin looked down at Gyeong's study plan and, after a quick glance, remarked, "This is actually really well structured. She would be perfect for our study group." Mihi, however, irritating, saying, "Gamin, defend Leon." And just as she was about to retaliate, another person entered the room, Gyeong. As soon as stepped in, he looked around at the commotion and asked, "What's all this noise about?" The moment Mihi saw Gyeong, her demeanor instantly changed. She immediately dropped her aggressive stance and started acting cute as if nothing had happened. Gyeong, noticing her sudden shift, smirked and said, "Mihi, you look so much better when you are quiet." His words made Mihi's face light up with excitement, completely forgetting the tension from moments ago. Meanwhile, Gamin remained unbothered by Gyeong's presence and continued looking at Gyeong's study material. Just as Gamin was about to speak to Gyeong suddenly stepped in between them and said, "She is my girlfriend, don't talk to her." But Gamin, unfazed, simply replied, "I am here to talk to Gyeong, not you." His focus remained on her because at that moment he was convinced Gyeong belonged in their study group. As soon as Gyeong declared that Mihi was his girlfriend, she could not hide her happiness. She was overjoyed that he had called her that in front of everyone. However, instead of staying by Mihi's side, Gyeong shifted his attention towards Gyeong, even going as far as placing his hand on her head. Gamin, who had been watching the entire scene, felt something off about the situation, but before he could say anything, Sihon quickly apologized and dragged him out of the room. After Gamin left, Gyeong turned back to Jeon with a cold smile. He said, "Did not I tell you not to talk to other guys?" He then stepped closer and added, "Come on, time for your punishment. Hold out your hand." Looking straight into her eyes, he continued, "I will hit you 3 times. Or if you want, you can do something cute and maybe I will forgive you." But instead of reacting in fear or playing along, Jeon simply extended her hand without hesitation. "If you want to hit me, then go ahead," she said flatly. Just as Gyeong was about to strike her, suddenly a bubble landed directly on his face. Startled, he paused, wiped it off and turned around, wondering who dared to do that. His eyes looked onto the culprit. It was none other than Gamin. Gamin slowly walked forward and with a mocking smile said, "She's your girlfriend, right?" "That's what you just said." Gyeong's expression darkened and he scoffed, "Just because you managed to beat up Lihan, don't start thinking you are something special. You are nothing in front of me." Without hesitation, he removes his glasses and carefully placed them to the side as if preparing for a fight. Gamin did not even try to stop him. The moment Gyeong grabbed Gamin, preparing to throw him to the ground, someone intervened. A member of the disciplinary committee suddenly stepped in, stopping Gyeong in his tracks. With a stern expression, he said, "Do you even realize what you are doing? You should not be doing this." Hearing this, Gyeong immediately stopped in his tracks, sighed and backed off. He quickly put his glasses back on and turned to leave. As he walked away, he muttered, "I will deal with you later." 10th grade student. After Gyeong left, Gamin took a deep breath and adjusted himself. But as he glanced around the room, he realized that the entire class was staring at him. Every single girl had their eyes on him, and this sudden attention left him completely confused. Not knowing what to do, he quickly left the room and made his way back to the library. As soon as he arrived, Sihon looked at him with disbelief. "Did you seriously throw bubble gum at his face?" he asked. Hearing this, Gamin casually shrugged. "I did not even know he was part of the discipline committee," he replied. "I just did not want to stand by and watch one of our future study group members get beaten up." Sihon raised an eyebrow and asked, "Wait, so you are saying she is officially a member now?" Gamin confidently nodded. "Yes, she is going to be one of us. Just wait and see." As their conversation continued, the library door suddenly opened. Both of them immediately turned to look at it. Standing at the entrance was none other than Hwang. She looked nervous as she approached them, hesitating for a moment before giving them a small wave from a distance. Slowly she walked up to them, and as soon as she took a deep breath and spoke, "I am here to fill out the study group application form for Jeon." Hearing this, Gamin frowned slightly. "Why are you filling out the form for Jeon?" he asked, looking at her curiously. Hwang sighed and explained that before leaving, she wanted to do something for Jeon. When asked where she was going, she revealed that due to her father's job, she was getting transferred and would be leaving soon. However, she insisted that they must not tell Jeon because she had not informed her yet. She then shared how in her very first week at school, she had made an enemy out of Mihi just because Mihi had called Gyeong handsome. Coincidentally, that was also the day she had spilled water on herself in front of him. Things worsened when Mihi took her money, claiming she needed it for choreography practice, but Jeon had stepped in and taken the money back for her. Since that day, Mihi has been after Jeon, constantly making her life difficult. Sihon and Gamin then asked her a question, wondering if Jeon was in this situation because of her. Hwang quickly denied it, saying that it was not her fault. Instead, she revealed that the real reason Jeon was trapped was because Gyeong had a video of her brother. He used it to blackmail Jeon, threatening to leak it everywhere if she did not do as he said. Despite all of this, Jeon never wavered and even helped Hwang gain confidence to speak up for herself. As for Lihan, his involvement stemmed from an entirely different problem. He had taken money from Hanyu but was attacked on his way, leading the thugs to steal it from him. Since the money had already been taken, Lihan was now in deep trouble because he still had to return what he owed to Hanyu. Gyeong had manipulated the entire situation from the beginning. When Lihan, desperate for money, approached him for help, Gyeong agreed, but with one condition: he had to steal something first. With no other choice, Lihan went to a store, committed theft, and brought back the stolen item. Gyeong had recorded everything. Once Lihan delivered the stolen item, Gyeong handed him an envelope filled with exactly the same amount of money he needed, but the same video of Lihan stealing because a tool for blackmail, and to this day Jeon was suffering because of it. Jeon never particularly liked her brother, but since he was the only family member she had, she endured all the torment just to protect him. Hwang, watching Jeon suffer, felt guilty and said, "I just want to help her. She will definitely join the study group, but before that, I shamelessly want to ask for a favor." Gamin and Sihon told her to go ahead and ask, and she hesitated before saying, "Can you delete her brother's video?" The moment she said this, both of them went completely silent. Gamin then turned to Sihon and said, "You are going to do this?" Sihon's eyes widened in shock. "What? Why are you putting all the responsibility on me?" he protested, but just as he turned to look at Hwang. She was giving him an innocent, pleading look, making a cute face as if begging for help. The moment Sihon saw her expression, he immediately caved in and agreed. Since Sihon could not refuse, Hwang was overjoyed knowing that Gyeong would finally be free from this burden. Meanwhile, at Gyeong's office, two people were secretly searching for the video that had given him so much power over others. Their goal was simple: to find the one piece of evidence that could make him powerless. As they frantically searched, they finally stumbled upon a USB drive. Convinced that it contained the video, they quickly plugged it in, ready to check its contents. But before they could even click play, Gyeong arrived. The moment they saw him standing there, they froze in fear, forgetting to even breathe. At the same time, back in the library, Hwang was being questioned about where they could find the video. Without hesitation, she replied it must be in Gyeong's office. He would have kept it there, stored in a USB. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Breaking into his office was not even going to be easy. Sihon immediately spoke up, saying getting inside his office is impossible. Hwang nodded in agreement, admitting, yeah, you are right, but what else can we do? Sihon then revealed an important fact. Gyeong had special approval from the school, granted by the gang itself. With that authority, he could do whatever he wanted inside the school under the fixing bad students. This meant that stepping into his office was not just dangerous, it was practically suicide. Fighting would break out, and no teacher or school staff would intervene no matter what happened. Meanwhile, back in Gyeong's office, he had already beaten up the two intruders, leaving them in terrible condition. Despite their state, he smirked and said, you guys really wanted to see this video? Oh, fine, go ahead and watch it. He pulled out the USB and continued, because I was planning to upload this to YouTube anyway. Sihon, the entire school will see it. Hearing this, their eyes widened in horror. The two immediately jumped up and rushed toward Gyeong, pleading, you promised you would not leak the video like this. But Gyeong simply smirked and replied, only losers keep their promises. I never intended to keep mine. He leaned back casually and added, besides, do you think I gave him that money out of my own pocket? That was his own money. To begin with, hearing this, they were confused and demanded, what do you mean by that? Gyeong, however, just scoffed and said, you don't need to know that much. Meanwhile, the scene shifted back to Hyun, who was still sitting in front of Miss Lihan. She looked at him seriously and asked, you were quite close to Lihan, right? Do you know where he is? Hyun, with an indifferent expression, replied, I was never close enough to anyone to know where they are or are not. Then he frowned slightly and asked, why are you asking about Lihan? Miss Lihan leaned forward slightly and said, I heard that he borrowed money from Gyeong and could not return it, and those were not even his own. That he took that money because of you. He was robbed on the way, and those stolen funds were meant for you. So to recover the money, he went to Gyeong, took another loan and gave it to you, and then at your request, he even came to my house and attacked me. Hearing all this, Hyun remained silent for a moment before letting out a small chuckle. He then said, is this really why you called me here? I thought you'd be more interesting. I have heard a lot about you, but you are not interesting at all. With that, he stood up ready to leave. As Hyun was about to leave, he casually remarked, some people, when they disappear, should just stay that way. There's no need to look for them. If Lihan never returns to school, just ignore it. His words hung in the air, but Miss Lihan responded, sometimes you could not just give up on things so easily. Meanwhile, in Gyeong's office, tension was rising. The three inside were deep in conversation when suddenly a loud siren echoed through the room. They all turned, tried to figure out what was happening. Unbeknownst to them, Gamin was hiding inside a storage cabinet. As one of Gyeong's men approached the cabinet, Gamin took his chance and leaped out, attacking both of them in an instant. Without wasting any time, Gamin's focus shifted. He was not looking at Gyeong but instead scanning the room for the USB. His eyes finally looked onto it. At the same time, Gyeong noticed where he was looking. A smirk appeared on his face as he said, so that's why you are here. You think you can take it? You would not get your hands on it. For Gamin, the only objective was to retrieve the USB, nothing else. That's why even while getting beaten, he kept his focus entirely on reaching it. However, despite his efforts, he failed to grab it on his first attempt, slipping past but coming up empty-handed on his second attempt. Just as he was about to get closer, Gyeong struck him hard, knocking him to the ground. Gamin lay there unable to move for a moment while the USB remained just out of reach. Gamin was now right next to the USB. Without hesitation, he grabbed it calmly, removed it from its place and slipped it into his pocket. Watching this, Gyeong's smirk faded. You think just because you stole the USB, I am going to let you walk out of here? Instead of replying, Gamin simply smiled, and in the next instant the fight began. Gamin launched a flurry of attacks, beating Gyeong down effortlessly. Despite all of Gamin's arrogance, he was completely outmatched outmatched, unable to put up a fight. After taking a brutal beating, he finally collapsed, unconscious. With the opponent defeated, Gamin casually adjusted his glasses, dusted himself off, and turned to leave. But just as he was heading for the exit, two more men suddenly appeared, blocking his way. They glanced around the room, saying their fallen comrades unconscious on the floor, and immediately turned to Gamin. "What the hell did you do to them?" they roared, charging straight at him. Gamin, however, quickly shut the door behind him, trapping them inside. Meanwhile, from a distance, Sihon and Hwang were watching everything unfold. Sihon's face paled as he muttered, "This just become a huge problem. If two more guys are inside, then getting out is going to be even harder." Thinking fast, Sihon suggested a plan. "Here's what we will do. I will go ahead and you yell at me, curse at me like we are fighting. That way we will create distraction and Gamin can use the chance to escape." Hwang, however, hesitated, looking uncomfortable. Sihon noticed and frowned. "What now?" "Don't tell me. You are never cursed at anyone before." She awkwardly nodded, confirming his suspicion. Before she could say anything else, Gyeong suddenly appeared from the upper floor. She spotted them together and narrowed her eyes. "What's going on here?" Gamin was shown fighting intensely, trying his best to hold his ground. He was not able to fight them off properly, his only goal being to protect the USB and find a way to escape. But the men surrounding him were not letting him get anywhere near the exit. Eventually, they managed to grab hold of him, pinning him down. At that exact moment, Gyeong regained consciousness, slowly sitting back in front of his computer. Gyeong smirked and said, "Did you really think you could stop me? I already copied the video to my computer. Now I am going to upload it." Saying this, he clicked the upload button and the video began processing. Gamin, still struggling, shouted at him to stop, but the upload had already begun. The video was not fully uploaded yet, but it was only a matter of time before it went live. Meanwhile, outside, Sihon was shown. Realizing what had happened, she found out that Hwang had told them everything about her situation and that these people were trying to help her. This realization filled her with rage. Hwang, sensing her anger, quickly apologized. "I was only trying to help you," she said, her voice full of regret. But Gyeong, her eyes burning with fury, spoke coldly. "Today either they will suffer or I will. I was trying quite just for the sake of that video, but now I need to hurt someone to feel better." Before Gyeong could reach the office, Gamin suddenly came bursting out, carrying the entire PC in his arm while running. The sight of him dashing away with such a heavy machine left everyone stunned. No one understood what he was doing, and before they could react, they started chasing after him. But running with a massive heavy PC was not easy. Gamin was struggling to move quickly, and the men chasing him were rapidly closing in. Gamin was on the verge of being caught, saying no other option. He heard the keyboard at his pursuers, knocking a few of them down. Without wasting a second, he threw the heavy PC towards Sihon and shouted, "Take it and run." Sihon, completely confused, barely managed to catch it. What I am supposed to do with this?" Before he could process what was happening, Gamin engaged in another fight, blocking the attackers to give Sihon a chance to escape. Now the PC was in Sihon's hand, but he looked up. He saw Gyeong approaching fast from a distance. Gamin yelled, "Run, just get it out of here." Sihon quickly started unplugging the wires, but before Gyeong could reach him, he grabbed a PC and bolted. As he rushed downstairs, several people began chasing him from below. Realizing he had no other way out, he changed direction and sprinted back up the stairs. Gamin had already told him that the video was inside the PC, which meant he had to protect it at all costs. Dodging and evading his pursuers, Sihon finally made it to the rooftop. Panting, he looked around, trying to figure out what to do next, but before he could think of a plan, Gyeong arrived. Seeing him, Sihon face turned pale. "I can't fight him." He realized. He instinctively backed away step by step until he was nearly at the edge of the rooftop. With no other opinion left, he lifted the PC and threw it over the edge. "It's over," he declared. "The PC is gone. You have nothing left to take from me." Gyeong laughed coldly. "Then you can go down with it." Just as he lunged towards Sihon, Gyeong suddenly appeared from behind. Without hesitation, she grabbed Gyeong, pulling him back. Her voice was filled with rage as she said, "I tolerated you because of that video, but now I will only be at peace after beating you myself." Without another word, she started attacking him relentlessly. Sihon stood there in shock, watching Gyeong completely overpower Gyeong. And with that, this part comes to an end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it. Okay, bye bye.